Previously recorded podcast. All right, welcome back to Previously Recorded. I'm your host, RP, as always. And this death-defying, fearless episode of Previously Recorded is brought to you by the brave people that made one of these two movies we're covering today. I am your host, like I said, I'm your host, RP, the podcast host without fear. And to do this episode, I need my co-host, my Elektra, some would say, Bob. Bob, how are you, man?
That's actually, you've insulted me there. Um,
Well,
I'm good though. I think this was the most work I've done for an episode of this show
it's
in
interesting.
how many years? 5 years or whatever it is that we've been doing this.
Yeah, I mean, how many movies have we watched that like we haven't liked?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, even the Hallmark movies
Yeah, like they're fun.
that we're always in the spirit.
Yeah, of course.
I think this is the first time where like some of these movies, or one of these movies in particular, felt like a chore.
Yes, it
So
did.
yeah,
Uh,
it was interesting.
Without further ado, let's get let's get going. So we're going to be talking today about the 2003, but technically 2004 Daredevil director's cut, the Ben Affleck Daredevil film, as well as the 2005
2005.
2005 film Elektra. So, for those of you of the podcast who don't know, Daredevil is like my favorite superhero. I've always liked him, but it wasn't really until the Netflix show that kind of spawned my interest, really revved it up and made me dive into the comics and start reading a lot of Daredevil. And I think he's awesome. I think he's such a cool character. I love the morality of him. You know, you can argue he's like along the lines of Batman, but that the Catholic overtone, which is like I don't necessarily care about the faith, but then there's just like the what keeps him kind of grounded and keeps him in a path is his faith. And also, you know, what he can accomplish in the courtroom is typically when he turns to being Daredevil, and other things. Obviously, his senses are awesome. His costume's cool, his action's cool. A lot of the side characters are cool, and there's a lot of really good stories, mainly by Frank Miller. Is some of my favorite. I even like some of Kevin Smith's run. But there's actually a scene in this movie coming up that would make me think. One of the points I was pointing out where what he can accomplish in the courtroom, he typically does as Daredevil. But that's kind of my background of Daredevil. I remember liking this movie growing up. Well, when I was a kid, when I saw it in theaters and I owned it on DVD. I still own it on DVD, but I haven't purchased it on Blu-ray and I haven't seen it in, I don't know, when did it, this movie came out 19 or 21
Almost
years
20 years
ago.
ago.
I probably haven't
Yeah,
seen
you
it.
said was it released in '04? Is that what you said?
Oh
Kind of.
three. The director's cut was 04, which I'd never seen
Okay,
the
all right.
director's cut.
Yeah, so you figured 21 years.
I've
I
watched
don't
this
remember
movie.
if I saw this in theaters or not.
I saw this movie the last time probably like 17 or 18 years ago. I don't think I've touched it since. I tried to a couple months ago, just like randomly threw it on and I just turned it off. It was on,
Not a
you
movie
know.
for that.
No, it's
For
absolutely
the
not.
podcast, 100%. But for that,
Yeah, because there's better there's better mediums of Daredevil now, which is just the TV show and even the minimal amount of She-Hulk. Bob, familiarity with Daredevil? What is it?
definitely seen it before. I can't remember when.
Hmm.
I had like a vague flashback of certain scenes when I was watching it, like remembering being younger and like kind of remembering the scene.
Hmm.
I can touch on that a little bit once you go through some of the stuff. Yeah, Daredevil. I know I've seen it probably a couple different times. I feel like it may have been one of those movies that ended up being on like FX or something like that, where I would like
Yeah.
flip it on and I would catch. I've seen the whole movie, but I would catch it in like spurts, maybe watch it for like a commercial break and then go back
It's a good
um
amount. It's a good amount.
to whatever it was that I was watching.
Yeah.
Like to whatever was good. But no, like I definitely seen it. I honestly remember it being more, I won't say entertaining because I don't know that it was unentertaining. I remember it being a better story. I guess I'll put it that way.
Okay.
I felt like it was kind of like bang bang bang.
It
Like yeah,
was.
in the movie everything happens at once. Like it's
Yeah.
all just like runs right together. No real build for me.
What about the character? I know you've read a couple comics, but Do you
Yeah, I've read a good amount. I mean, you've read more Daredevil than I have as far as the older stuff. I think I've been reading Daredevil for the last
Chip Zdarsky's run, right?
10
Is that
years. Yeah, I mean, Chip Zdarsky.
Charlie Soule was
Yeah,
wrote for a little bit.
I think
I've
since
read
I've
a bunch.
started reading, which was around
Hmm.
10 years ago.
It's been consistently good. I fell off a little bit. They did that whole Devil's Reign. I
Yeah, I
didn't get
read
any of
that.
that. So you have actually kept reading more than I have because I
Yeah,
saw
I've
some of
read
the.
through, like, I actually thought, which obviously didn't come into play here. So Daredevil right now is like a whole new. I think
Yeah,
I might have one here.
yeah. It's Elektra is Daredevil right now, right?
No, no, that's a different story. So there's two Daredevils technically. So Daredevil died,
Yes, I read
and
that, and
yeah,
he
and
went
then
to hell.
yeah, he went to hell. He kind of sacrificed himself for everybody else.
Yeah,
So right now, it's the writer's on Med for whatever reason. I can't remember the first name.
I read the.
Yeah, you would actually like that covers Strange and Daredevil on the same.
Holy shit, that's awesome!
But
I'll buy it off you.
you can probably
I'll
get you one. I don't know that that's a
I'll have to check eBay.
issue 6 of Daredevil. I don't know if that's something that's selling out at the store.
But you never know.
No, so they brought him back, and it's just like I similarly where how you said like the religious undertones. I think it's a little bit different than Batman because like Batman has his line, but he'll do everything else
Hmm.
basically aside from killing, whereas Daredevil will do things and then really struggle with the consequences of that, like morally, like why did he do that, that kind of stuff. So like, but I like both of them. I
But yeah, no, a very interesting character, and I think that it's a good choice. It's a good, but it's a tough choice. It's a to adapt, but also an interesting choice for this to be the next film that you make after making the X-Men. Because X-Men 2 came out in 2003, and then this movie also released. I think this movie released before, actually before X2. If then,
it
I'm not
did. I
sure.
looked them up. Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah. So, all right, let's just dive into the movie. That's our kind of our background of Daredevil, but we'll just dive into as we always do. Again, it's not going to be a step-by-step review. We're going to talk about things we like, didn't like, but that's our background of the character going in. He's literally my favorite. Probably, if you ask me, he's my favorite superhero. So that's the basis of this going in. Where Bob is also a fan, a constant reader of the comics, and so this is the background you're going to get um, for Daredevil. So Daredevil opened on February 13th, very romantic, 2003, on a
Maybe
budget of.
that's why I went in theaters. I was on my it
Were
was
you
a
on a
15-year-old date.
you on a date?
No, no,
Oh,
my brother maybe.
was she blind as well? But
Yeah.
oh, body bag. Just kidding.
Hey,
Bob's
hey,
very handsome.
we just finished fighting in a playground and we went to see a movie.
Oh boy. Budget of $78 million. His box office gross was 179.2 million. Opening weekend, $40.3 million. It was the second largest for a February opening behind the movie Hannibal. However, a steep decline the following week of 55%, less box office return, and then 35. So it started off well. It ended up doing still pretty badly, but it did enough to generate a spinoff. The critical reception on Rotten Tomatoes was 43%, with the consensus being while Ben Affleck fits the role and the story is sporadically interesting, Daredevil is ultimately a dull, brooding origin story that fails to bring anything new to the genre. So this
I
is the
agree with that for the record.
there's I would also agree. I would absolutely also
And you
agree.
said it like it warranted a spinoff. I don't think it warranted a spinoff. I think Jennifer Garner in the early 2000s
Yeah, I'm
is
just
what
saying
war
I'm surprised that it
I
got a
think they were
spinoff.
just riding
The
the hype
coattails.
of hey, Jennifer Garner is an attractive female
Yeah,
actress in the early 2000s, and she had already played Elektra.
and they were
Because
just like,
the
roll
when
with
we
it.
get to the Elektra movie, that's basically what it felt like. Let's try to get this hot girl in a film.
So this is the consensus. There is no consensus for the director's cut. So the director's cut released strictly on Blu-ray and DVD, or at this point just DVD, in 2004. And so this was the response for the director because he felt like he didn't get the move to make the movie he wanted to make. It's the long rumored director's cut of Daredevil delivers a better film of 30 minutes longer than the original due to not only new scenes but small extensions here and there and the removal of a nonsensical love scene, which I don't remember a love scene from the original one that like was missing from this. So that could be hearsay. I'm not really sure, and I wasn't watching both. Absolutely not. But there's more action in this one. You know, the biker bar scene, Daredevil beating up all the biker bars, more Elektra and Bullseye, more Kingpin, and more character for Matt Murdock, including his dad and some banter with Foggy. Which the banter with Foggy, I really enjoyed. So we'll get into that. But then one of the biggest changes of the film was the addition of the subplot with Coolio, where you actually get to see Matt be a
But so
lawyer.
Coolio wasn't in the original.
No, according to this, no.
He was my favorite part, I
He was
think.
great. The courtroom scene, he
He says
like
he was too high and he forgets.
yeah, like it was like I like it was really enjoyable for me.
Now,
Uh,
and then at the end when he was like, "Oh man," he's like thanking them.
yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah. He's like,
I
I
I
owe you.
genuinely like as I was watching, because I've been taking notes for these because it's just kind of like a
Yeah, you're
different
not. You're
style.
really not supposed to.
And I just remember being like, I think Coolio is going to be the highlight for me of this one.
I don't think anybody's ever said that about a movie ever. Um,
Yeah, no,
so
maybe
so
Keenan and Kel TV show theme song, but that's about it. Never a movie.
that's true. So executive producer Kevin Feige commented on this version of the film, believing the people who had other opinions of the original release Daredevil will be won over by this new version. Some reviewers had even called it a considerable improvement on the original, notably preferring the more violent undertones, a lesser focus on the romance, and equal focus on Daredevil and his lawyer side. So, this is why we had decided to watch the director's cut because we had just heard it was a better version of the film. And from my experience, I thought it was.
I
I
like
don't,
don't remember the film well enough
that's
to
my
say that it
problem.
was bad, but like, yeah, if I now knowing that Coolio wouldn't have been in the other one, I think I would have kind of been pissed.
Yeah, no, I would have been, I would have, because I was like, hey, we don't got to watch this because we had to pay for it.
Yeah,
And which was fine. You know, it was like $4 to rent it. And I'd never seen it. So I was like, sure, you know what? Let's go ahead, let's watch it.
and like looking at all the things that they added,
It makes four.
aside from Elektra Bullseye, it all was worth it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. I'm curious about the more Kingpin. Maybe if they mean just more Kingpin himself and
So
not
what I
Matt
looked up
main
was
King.
that some of the conversations he had with Wesley
Oh, okay.
were not in the original. Because I was looking at like what the difference, I was trying to find some of the differences just to make sure I was watching the right one.
Hmm.
That was the one thing I saw. Like there's in the earlier in the film, there's like a conversation with Wesley that isn't like so they really don't establish Kingpin very well in the
Okay.
original, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a half hour of film. Like that's a lot. As we talked about with X-Men: The Last
Especially if the
Stand.
movie that's only it's I think it ended up being 213.
Yeah, yeah, which was so. I mean, this is what I mean. I don't know if there was like maybe a direct, like a push by Fox to be like, we got to have these movies under 2 hours because that's just essentially more of a film, more character development, more things to do. Like you're obviously like a film depends on the hero and everything, like a superhero film, but it's only as good as its villain as well. So to especially a huge
One
villain
of the
like
problems with
Kingpin.
this one.
So we'll get into what we liked and what we didn't like. But that's the reason we went with the director's cut. If you haven't seen it, if you hear us talking and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's why, because we saw a different version of the movie. So as we do with every review, we go into the like pre-production and the casting and everything like that. So in 2000, New Regency obtained the rights, which I feel like New Regency hasn't put a movie out in. Are they still around?
I don't know. You keep. I'm gonna look it up
They might be
because
like New Line Cinema now.
yeah, I was gonna say I feel like they probably just got their name changed.
Yeah. So they attained the rights with Fox, set to distribute the film, and Mark Steven Johnson, who had commissioned a version of the Daredevil like script back in 1997, was rehired and handed in his script in 2001. Producer Gary Foster said that unlike other superhero films at the time, it would be more character driven, darker, it's definitely darker, and edgier. Is it darker because the man can't see? So Kevin Feige at the time, you know, before Marvel Studios, before all that, still a young producer, said it was one of the strongest scripts they had gotten for a Marvel property. And after the success of Spider-Man, Fox felt comfortable. Even though I mean, X-Men was a hit, so I don't know why they're going off of Spider-Man, but raised the budget for this film after the success of that movie.
So,
So
so just to cut you off real quick with an
yeah,
update. The most recent new Regency film that I there's other ones, but that I Deep Water with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas,
What?
which is
What?
2022. The
Deep
creator
Water?
in September of 2023,
They were the creator?
and then The Northman.
Oh, good
I
movie.
feel like
Northman's
that
good.
had some like
Northman's dark, man. That is a
I feel like that had like a pretty good like
yeah. I think
build. Like I
I
feel
don't
like
know
that
that.
was like advertised pretty well.
I'm not
Bohemian
sure about
Rhapsody is the last like big film that they put out.
that movie's fine. Okay, so the casting, you gotta fill the role. You gotta get a. I mean, I don't know if they want to go to the way of at this point. How was Ben Affleck was well known at this point because Goodwill Hunting had already come out.
It's
So
like
it's just
97. No, Ben Affleck had been around for sure.
yeah. So he was a big name. So he was cast in 2001, beating out Vin Diesel, which would have been awful.
That would have been brutal. Yeah,
That
that's
would
rough.
instead he did his Riddick movie, but he opted out because he was in a little indie project called The Fast and the Furious. And Edward Norton and Colin Farrell were considered for the role until Affleck signed on. So Matt Damon turned down the role, and he and Ben both loved Daredevil comics, but Damon didn't believe in the script or the director at the time. But he's like, "Here, best friend, go ahead." Affleck committed to the role, and he said it was his favorite comic growing up, and he wanted to do it right. He went on to read as much Daredevil as he could, saying that it was about taking what he knew as a fan and helping to faithfully get it on screen. And also famous Marvel writer and editor Joe Quesada considered Affleck taking the role to be a serendipity in action as he and Kevin Smith, who obviously for if people don't know, Kevin Smith and Ben Affleck are really great friends and had in Kevin Smith's run of Daredevil, he had modeled Matt Murdock to be the look of Ben Affleck, which is pretty cool.
And Ben Affleck had been in a bunch of Kevin Smith movies.
Yeah, he
Uh,
always has a small
yeah.
role
I mean,
cameo.
well, Chasing Amy is like Ben Affleck.
Yeah, he's the
Dogma, I
main
feel like has
actor.
a good amount of Ben Affleck too.
Mallrats is great. He's a small
Yeah.
role and
But so at this point, just like because I was like Ben Affleck was the name, but was he like so he had already been in just as far as big movies, like action type movies, Armageddon, Reindeer Games. Not that Reindeer Games is a good movie necessarily. Pearl Harbor, though. So
Mhm.
he the Sum of All Fears. So he had be established himself as this like dramatic action kind of guy.
So it wasn't a kind
This
of
wasn't a reach.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. Jennifer Gardner, though relatively not really known at that point, I would assume.
Alias. So she was the
Oh,
more
that's right. That's
2000
right.
yeah.
Alias, which comes into play with Elektra. But she beat out a short list for the role to get Elektra. Then Colin Farrell was cast as Bullseye, and he had signed on after he read Frank Miller's run to understand the character more. And then Michael Clark Duncan, who RIP, we love him, was cast early for the role of Kingpin. And he was already a big guy at the time, and they asked him to put on 40 more pounds for the role.
He rocked, by the way.
He did
I
rock.
wish like he should be Kingpin forever. Like I
He's a
thought he looked so intimidating.
yeah, well, he is.
But
And
also I know, but also just and then in the suit, like I was all about it. I was all
me
for it.
too. That's my one of my highlights for this film is I think he's great.
Jennifer
Um,
Garner had been in Pearl Harbor.
that's where they met. That's where
I'm
isn't
saying
that where
like
they
there was
met?
a couple like bigger
Bigger movies for her.
like that. I didn't realize that she had these like big movie roles. Catch Me If You Can.
That came out
Um,
before this?
they're seeing like yeah, the year prior.
Okay.
She wasn't like as major. Dude, where's my car?
I'm not a I don't hate her. Like I don't like I'm not like a Jennifer Gardner hater. I'm just not like a huge fan. So I guess I just haven't really seen a lot of her stuff. So it makes sense for me to be like, I don't who is
13 going on 30 happened
that's
afterward. That's
that's
the one
a
that matters.
that's Audrey's like one of Audrey's favorite movies.
Yeah, that's 2004. So like
That is a good movie. I
yeah,
like that
that's
movie.
the one where I feel like if you've seen a Jennifer Garner movie, it's probably that
It's
one.
probably that. Yeah, and it was. For me, it wasn't Electra, I can tell you that much. So Michael Clark
And
Duncan
nobody
was
did say it was. And I never saw Electra.
I never saw it. So Michael Clark Duncan was a little nervous to take on the role because of how he had been portrayed in the comics as always being white. So, but he had hoped that fans would watch the movies and say, you know, hey, he's not like that in the comics, but I want them to get past that and just see the movie for what it is and see me for what I am, an actor. And like me, you and I both said, thought he was fantastic in it. So then filming, despite the entire movie set in New York, they did it in the famous backdrop of LA. When they were filming, Mark Steven Johnson opted to use like direct scenes from comic books, mainly the Guardian Devil series, as an influence for how he would frame a shot or how the shot would look. So that's pretty cool. And for Ben Affleck to get the like milky blue effect, he just wore contact lenses. But that's kind of the backstory about it. We'll get into the everything, the aftermath of it afterwards. I know we had a little bit of differing opinions on this film. As just some pre-show talk. I had rated it one thing, you had rated it another. So let's
Not
start.
super far off upon review, though. We
No, no,
realized
no,
they weren't
no,
as far off as it seemed
no.
initially.
So let's start off with what we like. Why don't you go first? Why don't you start with some of the big points that you liked?
I
Um,
liked Kingpin. I liked John Favreau. I did
John.
like Foggy.
Mhm.
I liked Ben Affleck sometimes, and like I know, so I don't know, like, and I honestly I did like Elektra to an extent sometimes,
Mhm.
or like now more so in this 100% than in her actual film. And I think I figured out the problem in her film, but we'll talk about that in a second. I did not like. I'll just give you both. Right. I
Yep.
did not
Hit me with
like
them.
the story. I liked Coolio. I loved Coolio. Let me not forget that.
No, we got to
Um,
emphasize that point.
yeah, I didn't like the acting at times, and like again, you watched Elektra first, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
So, like this, I feel like that changes when you have that taste in your mouth. It changes everything. Where like as I like kind of trashed Daredevil and then watched Elektra, and I was like, maybe Daredevil wasn't that bad. And
Uh,
so like, but I didn't. And I fucking hated Bullseye.
Interesting.
I could not stand him
Why?
because
Why?
he was so weird.
Yeah, yeah, he was.
Like
He was
he's
super.
so weird.
What's the sign? Oh, after he throws the baton, which is absurd,
Yeah.
and it kills Elektra's dad, and he just goes, points to his scar, and just goes,
Yeah.
bullseye. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Touching his head all the time. Now it's so strange to me.
And
And like being like twitchy and like a little freak.
the necessary added curse word in this extended edition of "I want a fucking costume."
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved it.
Well, like, I see that it was too cheesy for me. And I've read things with Bullseye.
Oh, he's not like
Maybe I'm
that.
not reading it right.
No, no, he's not like that.
Like at
No,
no
yeah,
point have I ever pictured Bullseye being
he's psychotic. He's not a freak.
100%.
Yeah, and like the fact that he had, the bullseye carved into his head, I get it, but also no. He clearly asked for a costume. That's the perfect way to give it to him, like the bullseye on the head.
Yeah.
But
No, so
yeah,
like I almost and I felt like it was like good angsty Daredevil. I would have liked to have seen the church involved more.
yeah, which is a heavy, as we said before, that's the heavy theme of his storyline. It's always a place where he goes for sanctuary or for to clear his mind or when he's battling with something. It's always a huge point. Which the final one of the final battles had too much of the church in it.
And
But
that's the one that I really remember a lot.
was the church scene?
When, like Daredevil and Bullseye in the church when he's like banging on the organ pipes.
Yeah,
Like I was watching as soon as they like started to fight, I was like, oh shit, I remember this like pretty vividly. Where like Bullseye catches all the stained glass.
absurd,
Not
absurd.
yeah, not a great scene. Or just him focusing so much on he made me miss
Yeah,
for like
yeah,
the next 45 minutes of the film. Like that that's all it is. He made him miss and now he wants to kill him. Like that's where it stems from, essentially.
yeah. Basically, so I'll go with what I liked. Actually, I'll go with what I didn't like. There is a decent amount that I didn't like. Let's number one. Let's just start with the embellishment of the physics. I cannot get behind it. I really hated it. Things just don't make sense. I understand that Daredevil swings a lot, and that's fine. And they clearly stole a ton of that from Spider-Man. You could
Yeah.
have just CGI Daredevil out and put Spider-Man in, and it would have made more sense. Hated it. Like I said, I
I like the
understand.
training scene. The
Uh,
physics when he was realizing his like abilities.
oh, it's insane.
It's the physics on that. It's like, what is this?
Why are you standing on the edge of a building if you just discovered you're blind? Like you're a kid, you could die. So yeah, I didn't like any of that. I understood it, maybe that they were going for the wow factor, and like I said, they were influenced by Spider-Man.
I'm sure it was, hey, we have these effects now.
Yeah, some of it. But
Let's
then
just
like
use them.
that was also my problem, is that a lot of the effects could have been done with a practically, because it's like there's a one scene where he's just like jumping from like railing to railing, that they could have just put a wire on him and made him jump, and it's CGI. It's bad CGI. It doesn't hold up, and like that's part of my problem, where I'm like, this is just, it's a stupid nitpick. But I'm like, something like that back in 2003, again, it might have been the excitement of, oh, look what we can do, look what we can do. But it's also, why are you doing that? So I didn't like that. I didn't like that he beat Kingpin too easy. It
That's
was,
where it got real quick at the end,
yes,
where it was like bullseye. Then he went straight to Kingpin, beat Kingpin, and I felt like there was no
it
like
was,
there.
maybe they were saving it to like set it up, like a real battle. But I'm like, you're teasing this guy the entire time, especially with the version we got with more of him in it. I'm like, this is so quick. Like,
And especially like did they? You said that there was a sequel. Was that in the works from the jump? Like, did they have any intention of a second movie right off the bat?
I think a lot of these ones that they like started kind of kicking the wheels, but nothing like, I didn't read anything that involved like,
And
oh, they were,
maybe that was just like a I'm like in Marvel mood where like he didn't have to be Kingpin in this movie.
no, Bullseye would have been perfect. And then at the end, you could have revealed that it was Kingpin that hired him.
Or
Boom.
just keep it that way, and Kingpin's just still looming. He finds out that it's Kingpin.
Yeah, yeah, something like
Like the
there.
idea that he goes to his like I don't even know what's the like his penthouse, I guess it would be.
Yeah, the fist tower,
Yeah. And then like breaks this dude's knees basically in
and it's
a
over.
matter of 8 minutes, and then it's over.
It's dumb. Like it was just because like he's beating the shit out of him at one point, and then you like find out that he realizes that like Kingpin killed his dad and
Yeah.
everything.
And
So I
all this
didn't like that.
he remembers that time he kissed Elektra.
Yep.
I want to do the same thing to Kingpin.
Yep. And then obviously it's an this is a nearly movie destroying scene, is the playground fight between Daredevil, Matt, and Elektra. It's
That's where I
fucking
said
stupid.
I didn't want to give you like I didn't want to take that away from you. I know how much you hate it.
I hate it so much. I've always said for years, and I had this conversation with a friend of the pod, Duke, who owns Capes and Cows Comics and Collectibles. He had said to me, Daredevil's not a bad movie if you take out that scene. And I've always kind of stood by that, because that scene is so fucking bad. It is awful. It is the embellished physics. It's dumb. It doesn't make sense. It's this guy. If you're a woman beating up this man who's blind, wouldn't you be freaked out that he's like kind of beating your ass? And then it's just stupid. It's just stupid. Middle of the day, stupid.
So here's the opposite feeling that I had. I had just watched Jaws 3D the night before. So I was in a silly, goofy mood. So as I was watching, that was a scene where I was like, all right, this is fucking dumb, but it almost made me like laugh. Like I was like, all right, this is funny.
I did, and then I was watching it with Audra, and I said, "Okay, I thought this was bad. I forgot how bad this
Like all the
actually
kids like
is."
cheering and like
Yeah,
yelling in the playground.
like those two would be on a list. They would be on something. They'd
100%.
be arrested. So those are like my big complaints, because that nearly is a scene, like a movie destroying scene, because it's so dumb. And then obviously I'm not a huge fan of the love story. The parts that we got were really cheesy.
It's just rush. It's all rushed.
Yeah, and it's like they didn't need to be lovers. I know in the comic, but he's had other lovers. Like they could have
Like
just,
they have a Karen Page.
yeah, exactly. And like it could have started out as affection and like attraction, but then once he realizes what's going on, then you can like, I understand from a plot device using it, but it didn't need to go as far as it did.
But also in the comics, they went to college together. So
Oh
like
yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
dropping this on them.
Mhm.
Like so the way that they introduce Elektra and the
She
way
just
that
walks
they
into a coffee store.
exactly, and then the way like they fall in love, and then she blames him for so it's so it doesn't make sense either, right? She blames Daredevil for killing her father, and then she stabs him, takes his mask off, and immediately is like,
It's all good. I
"You
knew
didn't
Matt would
kill
never
my
do.
father."
Yeah, it's like I knew Matt wouldn't do this.
Yeah,
And
but
like
like I just didn't
it,
make sense to me. Like it's just
why
an immediate like flip of a switch.
yeah, it's dumb. And why are her eyes green? Just to make them comic accurate
I guess.
and then drop it for Elektra?
Now they were green and electric
Were they? Uh,
sometimes.
yeah,
Even in
that changed.
Daredevil, I don't think they were consistently green throughout. When
I will
she first walks into the coffee shop, they are like aggressively green.
yeah, yeah, they were. Like you thought
And
like
then
maybe something was wrong with her.
yeah, and like yeah, that's jaundice. And then later on, they're not nearly that bad. Well, to the point where I was like, does she even have green like in her eyes at all?
Yeah, you're probably right. But I will say, I thought she was very attractive in this film, especially a couple of the scenes where she's fighting at the end. So those are like my big negatives. Everything else I think is fine or good as a big Daredevil fan. I thought it was fun that like every criminal in the movie is named after a Daredevil writer. Joe Quesada, Kevin Smith's character is named um, Jack Kirby. So I think that's fun. They do a little bit of fun with a couple of those characters. I like that. I actually liked Ben Affleck. It's hard. I think you got to take into account it's hard to act without being able to use your eyes. I think it's misleading how much we actors rely on their eyes to convey their emotions where he couldn't. I think as Matt, he does a decent job. I loved Foggy. I loved their relationship. Favreau just being Favreau was very funny. I had like laughed out. Like I laughed a lot at them too.
I think this like Foggy's a good role for that like typical Favreau like banter
Yeah, he is.
where like he can get
Um,
his lines in. Like I thought that was it was fine.
yeah, I agree. I always liked the squeezing of the rose when he finds his dad. I don't know why, I always did. And then,
Does he cut his hand on a thorn? I
yeah, I
never
guess
understood why red comes out. Like when you
it's
squeeze a rose, it
blood.
doesn't. I know, but like where's the blood coming from?
I think it's just dramatic effect. It's got to be a thorn.
God,
And I liked the montage scene of Elektra with Evanescence being used in this film
you
twice.
loved it. You
I
didn't like
loved
it.
it.
You
I
loved it.
loved it. I did love it.
Yeah, I
Um,
liked Evanescence in the film twice. Yeah, I really liked them. That's what I will say about this movie. This movie is unapologetically
2000s.
2003.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And another thing with the early 2000s movie is like they love showing the changing of DNA. Like Spider-Man did it, they did it,
The
like
X-Men did it in the
X-Men
intro, I
did
think.
it. Yep. Yeah, like it's just like a weird thing that they love showing. It's like, okay, we get it. There's
Yeah,
something happened to
we
them.
know what they like watch Magic School Bus or something
Yeah.
like that. Now they know what the inside of a body looks like.
Uh-huh. I liked his suit to a degree.
Sometimes I like that he had that like range of suits in that closet, but he
Yeah,
never
but
used
the
them.
I know, he just used the same thing.
Yeah,
And I hated the tank. He can control what he does and doesn't hear. So I just hated that. But other than that, I don't really have like any other big major call outs. I think that for at the time, I think that they did a good job. I think that this is a tough property to
I
adapt.
think if they had originally released the director's cut, it wouldn't have gotten the trash it got.
I absolutely agree. I think that that helped. If I were to go back and watch, the original released, I probably wouldn't like it nearly as much. I'm not saying I love this, especially because we've gotten a much better version of Daredevil on, in that on Netflix. And yeah, no, I just think that I think that they tried. I think that they tried to make a competent movie. And I think, this extended cut is I think there's stupid parts like they killed Elektra and obviously that leads for her movie, which still like whatever, but like I don't know. There's a lot of questionable things that they did, and I'm sure that I'm missing. But like overall, it's not a bad movie. For me, it's a 3 out of 5 with like just hammering home that they got a lot of what in the director's cut. Let's preface that in the director's cut, they got a lot of what Matt Murdock is. They got it right, or they attempted to get it right, while also bringing an entertaining villain, but doing the generic bullshit love story that takes away from the film. And then, but they tried to make it entertaining with these, crazy acrobatics. Some of the action's cool, but some of it's also too CGI'd and looks stupid, so it doesn't hold up. But there's a reason why I never walked away from this movie being like wowed or constantly watched it like I did with the X-Men movies. It was just kind of it existed. I owned it, but that's not really saying much that I owned it. So
No.
that's where I'm standing. So 3 out of 5 for me. I don't think there's anything major I have to add on top of that. What about you, Bob?
I think I gave it a 2.5, right? And it's just because, like, I honestly, Colin Farrell came on this, and I like Colin Farrell. That was my problem, I think. I
Yeah,
just
me
don't
too.
remember him being so bad. And every time he was on the screen, I was like, this fuck again. It was like annoying to me. And then all the same gripes that you had. But like you
Mhm.
said, like for a like it's not Spider-Man, but like for a 2003 superhero movie, it was where do you put this next to X-Men The Last Stand?
This is above Last Stand.
Yes. Worse than the first two of X-Men movies, but
Yes.
above that. So that's where like it wasn't the worst thing I'd ever seen. That was a little bit later down the line.
I think it's like what it's why it's what it is I think you had people involved that were passionate. I think the director was passionate, despite being passionate and some weird parts of his script. He did have some shoddy camera work, but you can see that he's trying to bring the best version of this movie possible. It's not like a hack job or it's not like a Josh Trank job. Like
Yeah. I
it's
thought
trying.
the non-made outside of Ben Affleck, I felt like kind of sucks sometimes, but it's like it's hard with the thing, and Colin Farrell also. But like the like additional actors, I feel like their acting wasn't great.
No, nobody in this would like win, and I don't know.
No, but I just meant like I felt like it was like campy a lot.
Yeah, which is what I'm interested to get to the Fantastic Four because that's what I remember that movie being very campy, and to see that those two side by side, it'll be an interesting comparison because I do agree. I think there's some camp to it, but I think that goes
Also,
with the movie that they made because they embellish a lot. There's a lot of parts where you're like, it's good, but then you're like, this is very silly, like the
yeah,
final action. But what were you gonna
I
say?
did like the AJ Soprano cameo.
And of course, he's a fucking dick.
Yeah,
That was an interesting thing too. The
little bully
the
boy.
the throwback looks like it's set in present day.
Yes,
The
nothing. I mean, I guess he's not that old, so you don't have to go back too much, but like
but also like 15 years is like when 2003 is like
it's 1988. Yeah.
85. Yeah, it's like people are where whatever. That was like a weird nitpick for me.
I didn't notice that because I was too thrown off by the fact that Tony Soprano's son was
AJ,
bullying kids in alleys.
a blind kid, dude.
Well, he bullied him before he was blind. The fact that they doubled down once he became blind was wild.
Dicks,
They were,
man.
okay, remember when we fucked with you and then you lost your eyesight? Well, we're back.
Fucking assholes, man.
Give
What are
that
you gonna
kid a
do?
break for give him a week.
I
Give
know,
him
seriously,
time.
like give him a break. But yeah, no, they even did little things to like. That's why I know like they were passionate. Like they did like what he should look like. They did that well. So that's where I leave it. 3 out of 5. I put it in the terms of our rewatch. It's the third movie, X-Men 1 and 2, and then Daredevil. And you said you're 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5,
2.5, 2.5.
2.5 out of 5. Would you probably put it the same place?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, The Last Stand is at times unwatchable.
Yeah, it gets worse. I'm telling you. I've watched some
It's all
crap.
that you ranked Wolverine.
Yes, I've watched some crap.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that, and so that'll be next for spoiler alert.
Yes.
That Wolverine we're recording next week. That'll be the next episode that you hear, and it makes The Last Stand look better. Let's just say that.
Been
But
a
yeah, that's
while. I saw that. I told you that was a midnight showing for me. It's been a while since I watched that one.
man. I got some stuff, but nothing to say about it at the same
I'm
time.
gonna go ahead and sit that one out.
So scrap sequel, yeah, I don't blame you. So the scrap sequel for Daredevil, obviously, Bob and I kind of hit it. Like Kingpin, he beat him quick. Maybe they were trying to set something up. So this would end up being the last time that Ben Affleck would play the Man Without Fear, and even so much so that he said he would never play a hero again. Obviously, he did, but
Batman.
he shot a cameo at the insistence of Jennifer Gardner for the
Who they were
spin-off.
married at the time.
They were married at the time. Spin off Elektra, but it ultimately was cut from the film. Affleck stated that he would return only if Fox would renegotiate to tell the darker stories of Daredevil. He had shown interest in the Guardian Devil graphic novel, as well as Born Again storyline. Born Again's great. Guardian Devil's good, but I want to say like this is a darker story. Like I don't know, it seemed like they wouldn't really have a problem with that, but as you find out more and more as they do these movies, that Fox really has a lot to say when it comes to the movies they put out, which I'm sure every studio does. But in November of 2006, Affleck stated that he would never reprise the role, having felt by playing a superhero in Daredevil, I've inoculated myself from ever playing another superhero. Wearing a costume was a source of humiliation for me and something I wouldn't want to do again. Which I don't really know if it's humiliating. I don't whatever. But like I said, he did anyway, and even that's a worse movie than this.
Well, also I feel like so November 2006, I feel like Ben Affleck's on his like he's on a little bit of a run. You got to figure if I'll look him up real quick, but he's got some like I feel like he went into a I'm gonna be like, almost like Bradley Cooper right now, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna write and direct these like
Yeah.
high quality films. So I feel like he probably decided that this was all beneath him.
Yep. Probably.
'Cause the run that comes out of this is gonna be, I mean, it comes in time, but
Well,
you
he
figure
eventually wins Best Picture. He wins Best Picture.
he's gonna have Argo, he's gonna have Gone Girl, he's gonna have I'm missing another one that was kind of big. I forget exactly. I was just thinking about it earlier.
I mean, Batman versus Superman is eventual, but I mean,
I just meant as far as like stuff like he's like big on the town is
oh
2010,
yeah, Town's a good
probably
movie.
right. So all these things happen later down the line, but I feel like he went off when he like wanted nothing to do with your like
Which I don't blame him. I mean, he's a very talented. I think he's a really talented guy. Argo's a great movie.
Argo's a good movie.
And the town's really good. But I mean, it is what it is. It's one of these things where it's like it didn't pan out. He went and did other things, and they turned out great. And you can't blame
I'm
that
an
guy.
Affleck fan. I'll say it out loud.
I am too. So like even when they signed him for Batman, people were like pissed, and I was like, I like Affleck. Like I'm fine with Affleck.
Now that being said, what happens right after Daredevil? Because now I have it sitting in front of me. Gigli,
What is it?
Jersey Girl, the Gigli movie with like,
I don't even know what that is.
oh, it's like one of the worst movies ever. Apparently, I think it's him and Jennifer Lopez. Jersey Girl's not awful. Catches shit, but I used to watch. I feel like I've seen that.
Jane Silent
Um,
Bob, Strike Back. He's in that.
yeah, so
Um,
he doesn't go on a great run right away.
but eventually it
Well,
comes.
you said when did he say that he was done with Daredevil?
2006.
Clerks 2, Smoking Aces.
You know the movie Live by Night? Apparently that
No.
was like a passion project for him, and it was awful. And then he put out a movie last year that nobody even knew called Hypnotic, and apparently also awful.
I'm
So,
curious, but he did Air too, wasn't he? Like kind of involved in that,
oh
or was he
yeah,
just
yeah,
producing?
he wrote and directed Air. I don't know
Yeah,
if he wrote, but he directed Air.
I feel like because you got it's 5 years later, but the town and Argo go back to back.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I am on the record saying I love Argo. I think Argo's a
Argo's
great
really.
movie.
I love the town.
And then the town's
I think
good
he
as
wrote the
well.
town too.
I'm not as big on the town as everybody else. I like it, but I know everybody. I remember when it came out. I've seen it multiple times, and people are like, "Oh my god, it's so fucking good!" Like it is. It's really good. I just like I think in that genre, I like other movies more. Super
I just feel
talented.
like I feel like when you watch the town and you know that he wrote the town, you can't help but like look at how heroic he makes his character.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like you watch
Well, it's like Adam Sandler when he makes his movies. He's got the smoking hot girl and
or like Goodwill Hunting, they wrote that,
yeah,
and Matt Damon's like a G. But like I just like I think Goodwill Hunting, it's like Ben Affleck wrote it, and he's just the
the dumb guy.
construction guy who's never gonna fucking get out of town. Like I like did
Yeah.
he give himself that role? Whereas then the town happens, and he's like, I'm gonna save everybody. I'm gonna be the hero. I wrote this
uh,
so that I could be the hero.
yeah. So obviously the spinoff Elektra happens, but despite efforts even from Jason Statham and even the studio's effort to find a director that could make it their own and bring their own creative vision to the character, the rights reverted back to Marvel Studios in October of 2012, which is when we got the Charlie Cox Daredevil, and then eventually saw him in MCU. Man, when he made his official film debut, I thought that I always found this fun. His official film debut was with the original Foggy Nelson,
I didn't
which
really
is
think
John
about that.
Favreau, which I always found very cool, just as
Cool
that being
fun
his
fact.
yeah. But
What's Jason Statham's connection?
I think he was trying to be Daredevil, which would have been strange.
That's wild. Yeah.
So that's Daredevil, and now we move on to the next film in our project is Elektra, the 2005 film Elektra.
Film's a loose term. Why don't you
Uh,
run down the information and then we'll just hit this thing with everything that's wrong.
Yep, that's fine with me.
All right.
So this movie was released in on January 14th, 2005, on a budget that's estimated between 43 and 57 million dollars. Its box office gross was $56.9 million. Opening weekend, $12.8 million, which I thought Fantastic the new one, was the lowest opening weekend of all time for a superhero film. I am incorrect. It is this. It's so low that Box Office Mojo doesn't even track this movie as a comic book movie. $12.8 million opening weekend. That is atrocious. Critical reception on Rotten Tomatoes, 11%, with the critical consensus saying Jennifer Gardner inhabits her role with earnest gusto, but Elektra's tone-deaf script is too self-serious and bereft of intelligent dialogue to provide engaging thrills. And I so agree with this. Just going to run down the pre-production. Jennifer Gardner did not want to do the film, but was contractually obligated to do so. They had filmed the movie in Gardner's tight window of her hiatus from Alias.
Which like knowing that,
I respect it.
I respect her more now. Knowing
Yeah,
that she's like, this is shit, but I have to do it because of my contract.
which is why this is part of like an example of why people are so hesitant to sign these
There's
multi-picture
like
deals.
multi-picture deals.
So like that is exactly why, like just down the line, Chris Evans didn't want to sign a 3-picture deal for Captain America, or I think it was like 4 or 5 picture deal because of this, because he had, he had the experience on Fantastic Four. So like having to do two and like, two is weirdly well better regarded than the first Fantastic Four. But like I get it. I get it from an actor. I mean, like,
Being stuck.
just like imagine like we go technically in our jobs, we can be fired whenever. And signing a 5-year deal with my employer would be, oh, this is cool. I'm locked in. But can you also imagine like, well, if you hated it, like you can't leave. Like it would just
Or if
be
your employer just like shit
sucked.
the bed.
Yeah, yeah,
They
exactly.
stop making money and they're like, oh yeah, well you're not making as much as you were going to anymore but you still got to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like you're stuck with this now. Like this movie. Oh my God, this fucking movie. So Rob Bowman knew that the window was small, but he hoped to achieve as much as he could during the time with a reported 43 to $57 million budget. The budget confined the story to a smaller scale, and they tried to focus on character over spectacle. Spoiler alert, they didn't focus on either. It's a story about a character learning about compassion, and he said shooting and preparing made for very long days, and he got as little as 4 hours of sleep a night, and he used every trick in the book he had to pull the movie off in the short amount of time. So this is a director coming and just saying, "Hey, I tried. I tried. I don't know if he did though." So this movie, I've given you the box office, I've given you the critical score. This movie has a legacy. In our previous X-Men episodes, we have talked about Ike Perlmutter and why movies were only getting made because of toy sales and everything. So this movie was actually used by Perlmutter to usher his agenda forward that no one wanted to see a female superhero led movie, which was already backed by the notion that kids aren't interested in them either because they don't sell toys, hence why they never made any toys. And so its failure helped derail any female superhero project for the years to come until truly DC did. Obviously, there's a ton of women led movies before Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman's probably the biggest box office. And then you get Captain Marvel, which is $1 billion film. So this was the last time we saw anybody from the Daredevil franchise until the Netflix reboot, where the role of Elektra was portrayed by Elodie Young, who I do love. And then the rumor has it Jennifer Gardner's going to get one more shot at this role, and I'll leave it at that. So yeah, that's Elektra. I had a lot of problems with this movie. I hated it. I've always said that the Fantastic Four 2015 movie is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. This might be the worst movie I've ever
I think
seen.
that when you said it, I think you said that's the worst movie I've ever seen.
And I mean,
In that moment, I think you said that was the worst movie.
exactly. Like it's just I will watch any movie. Even if I don't want to see it, I'll watch it. I would rather watch paint dry because I don't think a single brainwave spiked during this movie. I didn't have a thought. I was like a vegetable watching this film until one scene, and I need to talk about this. I don't know if you want to talk about what you liked first, but I need to
I
talk
didn't
about
like anything. You can do your thing, man.
it.
But before you do this, let me put I'll put my spin on why I think this movie happened and what was wrong with the situation. I said they were just trying to capitalize on Jennifer Garner.
Yeah.
That the contract makes so much more sense because she was popular. Alias was a huge show at the time. All right, let's get this superhero thing out there. Let's figure this out. But then also, every scene in this movie, she looks like she's never been a person before. She walks weird. Her shoulders are like real far because they put her in these like ridiculous outfits just to make her hot.
Yeah.
But now she like doesn't look feasible. And the bangs killer.
Bangs are awful.
Bangs killer.
And like, and I understand probably from the tight window, she probably didn't train for it because like normally when they like, I thought she like looked like I don't want to say like jacked, but like she looked like muscular for Daredevil. Where this one, she kind of just looked like she went from Alias, a show about a reporter, to this. Like I don't
Well,
think
she's a
she.
CIA agent in Alias.
That's what it is, CIA agent.
But
But
yeah, I don't think she looks bad. I just think that
no,
she
no, God, no, I'm not saying she
unnatural.
looked bad.
No, I meant like as far as like being like
Yeah,
in built. Like I
yeah,
just
yeah,
think
yeah,
she, like when I felt like it looked like she was like they had her puffer. It's not her. The
yeah,
director is saying, "Hey, walk into this room like this."
yeah,
Or
exactly.
if she is walking into the room, the director's not saying you don't look like you've ever walked before.
Exactly. She just doesn't
Because
look
I'm still like it's
comfortable.
not like she's a bad actress.
No, she's not. No, she's
So
not.
that's where I was like, all right, this isn't her.
So there's a lot of stupid shit in this movie that's not her fault. One, her having like OCD. What is with that?
But that only happened for like a scene, and then it went away. Did
It
it ever
was
come back into play?
no, where she lays out the like everything in the house.
There's
I,
that, and then also then she counts her steps,
yeah.
and the
Oh my
girl's
God, I
like, "Oh,"
forgot
and
about the
she's like, "I
counting
had
her
OCD,
steps.
but when I was a kid," and
Oh,
then
she
that
actually
I
says
was
I
like,
have
okay, this is
OCD.
going to come into play. Oh, they say OCD
Oh,
in the
I
movie.
missed that. I missed that.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember that. I understand the cleaning. Cleaning makes sense. Because she doesn't want any trace of her to be
DNA. They're
found.
talking about DNA or whatever. Yeah,
So that's dumb. She nearly kills a fucking kid for breaking in. The kid's just like, "Can I hang out?" After
kind of a
almost
jerk.
the kid is kind of a jerk.
No, well, so is she.
Yeah, they're both jerks. And the kid's like,
The movie about jerks for jerks made by jerks. Who's
Fox.
McCabe? Whatever that dude is.
The neighbor? Is that the
No,
neighbor?
the,
No,
like
no. McCabe's
her
like
like
the
agent.
yeah, who sends her the gift basket, which
But
is weird.
then he's like then he like risks he sacrifices himself for them. I'm like, I don't even know who the fuck you are.
Exactly. Yeah, just this movie's stupid. There's
Neighbor's
more.
weird. They kiss, then they kiss again. There's no real romantic thing going on,
There's
but they get kissed.
it feels unnatural.
There's not a thing in this movie where I didn't say, okay, that makes perfect sense. Like everything was a little confusing.
Yeah, and they give us the beginning. Okay, the hand, spiritual. They can bring people back to the life. Not even saying they brought Elektra back to life. It's just saying they've been known to bring people back to life. Duh, okay, whatever. When she kills the hand, they just turn into
Poof.
gas. Poof. It's dumb. It's inconsistent too
Is
because
that Typhoid Mary too?
yes, that's Typhoid
Okay.
Mary. That was like I struggle to even say cool, but like whatever. That fight scene in the woods is awful. Where she rides the branch down or the tree log down.
Yeah, that dude knocks over a tree and then doesn't realize it's gonna fall.
Exactly. And then that kills him. And then he poofs. But like he
Yeah.
gets like fucked up with blades or whatever and is like fine. So I hated that. I hated everything about this movie. There's not a single thing I liked about this movie. Like, and I don't know if I've ever said that about a movie. Like normally I could be like, oh well, she's trying, or they did something cool. It's sepia toned as fuck. It's ugly to look at. Jennifer Garner doesn't want to be there.
It's slow too. Like we
It's
had that conversation where like I said
for an hour and 20-minute movie, it's slow.
it feels like it takes forever. I started it last night because I was like, let me get this in. Because I think it's an hour 45 total. or
Oh,
an hour 30 or something like that. I was like, okay. So I'm like watching it, and I look at, I feel like I'd watched 45 minutes of this movie. Nothing's happened, but nothing happens anyway.
yeah,
And
nothing.
I look over, and it's been 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But there's no way I could do this for another hour and 35 minutes. And I legitimately watched this movie in three different sittings for an hour and 35 minutes, or whatever it ends up being.
Mhm.
It took me three different sessions to finish it.
I watched it in one sitting.
Couldn't. I just could. Well, I also started late last night.
Yeah,
Other
well,
things played into that. Like it's not like
sure.
I made a conscious effort. Like I'm done with it for now.
No, life happens.
But I'm also like not mad.
Yeah, yeah,
If it
yeah.
wasn't so interesting, I could stay awake.
Hmm.
But then I was like, all right, let me hold off for another 10 minutes, get another 10 minutes out of this movie. It was like,
Yeah,
oh, something came up I have to do. Great.
yeah. Like this would be a movie I didn't, but I would watch it on the train because like that's what I did with X-Men. I watched it on the train. Like I'm not wasting my time. There's a flashback scene when she's in the pool. Okay, she dives into the ocean, which this is my whole thing. I got to get back to that. Why
Yeah,
my
this is
big
the
problem.
scene. Yeah, you have your scene.
So anyway, she dives into the pool and it's a flashback. And why didn't they just use the actor from Daredevil that played her dad? They didn't even get somebody that looked like him. They
No,
got
it looked completely different.
it looked completely different. So I don't understand trying maybe to make it connected. Whatever. I'm not gonna waste our time. I'm not gonna waste our listeners' time. This movie fucking sucks. However, my
If there's a ranking of all these Fox movies and anything ends up being worse than Electric, there's movies I haven't seen, but there's most of them I've seen.
yeah.
Anything you make the decision, this is where I will legitimately sit down with a fork and a knife and I will eat a shoe.
Anything that's worse than this?
If you say if we can guarantee if we can if there's a movie in this Fox rewatch that's worse than this, I will take it all back. I will physically eat a shoe.
You will physically eat a shoe. Will
I
you die
will.
from eating a shoe?
I don't know.
Will you
If it's
burst?
worse than this, I probably die from watching it, so it doesn't matter.
Will you burst into
I'll
who
burst into gas. I am a member of the hand
Jason Isaacs was in this movie too in the
for
beginning.
13 seconds.
So I have a note here about bad guy reads the guy's thoughts to see where they oh yeah, they like interrogate a guy and they like read his thoughts to show and they show it, but he didn't
If
watch
that's
them
McCabe
leave.
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So he
So
like
he's like, you don't have to.
oh,
He's like,
that's
I'm
what
not
it
going to say
is.
anything. And he's like, I'm not going to. I'm. He's like, you don't need to.
So they show, yeah, it's it. So McCabe didn't see where they went, but they show in the vision where they went. And I
He
was like,
told them where to go though. He said there's a tunnel under the house that's going to lead to here. It doesn't
I
make sense either, but he's the
yeah.
one that told him where to go. See, that's the difference between watching it in three sittings. I was locked in all three times.
So
You gassed out halfway.
I did. And then how do you become a martial arts prodigy?
What do they call her? The treasure,
Yeah, she's the treasure. It's dumb.
and they use she uses a chain.
Yeah, I don't get it. So, all right, to save everybody's time and to save the potential shoe eating for as the grand finale down the
I'm
line.
in for the show, man. I'm test me.
My problem, and this was the only thing that got a genuine reaction out of me in the entire movie, was when the neighbor invites her over for Christmas dinner. Because nowhere in any of this fucking movie is it wintertime? Is it cold? Is there a Christmas tree? Is there any fucking mention of Christmas dinner? This could have been just, hey, would you mind joining us for dinner? And it bothered me because she's at a lake house,
Well, the
typically
little girl, because she doesn't want her to be alone on
on
Christmas.
Christmas. And I was when she said Christmas, I said, what? I was like, what? My entire letterbox review is just about this. How that this
I didn't
does
read your. I saw your rating, but I didn't read your letterbox
it's
review.
just all about like I can't get my head about it. Like it's not even cold. The house doesn't like she's just standing on. I understand there's lake houses in warm places, but what she's from New York, where like when they're in New York, it looks normal weather. He's just wearing a regular jacket. Like this is was fucking blew my mind because you don't see anything. Even in the house that they're staying at, she dives into the lake. It's fine,
Yeah,
but then they made me eat my words. And then the neighbor's house does have lights and a Christmas tree, but I was just like, there's when it's Christmas
yeah,
time.
but the little girl's homeschooled, so how do you know it's not like June? He's just telling her that's when Christmas is.
That's true. She could be dumb.
This is pre-internet.
But I was so like, there was just no need for them to say Christmas because it doesn't come back. It's just poor writing.
It'd be funny if it did, like if they kept working that bad,
Yeah, at the end,
like
it's just like I can't kill you.
Stick
It's
was just like you can't let a kid be alone on Christmas. Stick
it,
was brutal. Stick just like very overacting. The fact that he's blind was cool.
yeah, it's just like I like that actor, but I'm
Like
just
his
like,
lack of sight
yeah,
also took away his ability to speak lines normally. Everything was kind of like chopped up.
he's a fucking creep, that guy, but I like him. I just like there's
Stick's always played like that though, but
yeah,
just
he is.
super fucking
He's
weird.
kind of how he's meant to be.
Kind of a dick, yeah.
But that I just couldn't deal with that, and I think that that's why it's also the worst movie I've ever seen because there's just no need for this Christmas. There's
Christmas,
no
Christmas is what.
Christmas broke me, and
Yeah.
there's no need for the love story between the two of them. Like you
So
could just
one
you can make her care about the neighbors without having to make it a love story that doesn't make any sense. Like they
one
both lie
star
to each other.
possible if you don't do Christmas for you, or would it still have been a half a star?
I might have been more favorable.
Because I told you before we got on the air,
I was
uh,
so angry about
I
it.
was at 1 star. So I was like, yeah, I think you'd already seen it. I think you hyped it up a little bit to be like the worst movie ever. So I like went in with worse expectations. I've probably overall, not like superhero movies, just in general,
Mhm.
I've seen worse movies, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
that movie Year One there was a cheerleading movie with Rebel Wilson where she's like in a coma and wakes up. It was a Netflix movie, came out like last year, 2 years ago. Audrey made me watch it. That's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
yeah,
That's a half star.
I'm saying like I've probably seen worse movies. So I was like, yeah, this isn't as bad. Like it's bad. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, but like
it's
it's
bad.
like I'm never rewatching it. But it's got like this I expected worse. So I had it at like 1 star. I'd already put it in. There was like 2 minutes left in the movie. And then they like did this slow motion walk to close the movie. And I
Away from
went
the
back and
house.
said, nah, fuck this. Half
Yep.
star. You didn't need that. It was
No, it,
it reminded me of the motorcycle scene in the Batman from the graveyard when
oh
they was
yeah.
riding their motorcycle for like 3 minutes. I'm like, I want to go home. Like,
Yeah.
it was so long.
Yeah, she walks away from the house. Like there's just so much shit that this doesn't make any sense. There's no connective tissue between this and Daredevil. Like it's just a bad
It could
fucking
have not
movie.
existed.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. My life would have been
I just meant
better.
like as far as like the idea that she existed in both movies. She didn't need to.
Somebody made a comment that if you take out that she's just like it's a comic book thing, that this is a better movie. Hard disagree. I've never disagreed more in my entire life with something because this is
The
just a
only thing
bad movie.
that's the only thing that's making me like give this movie any kind of break is that I know
Yeah,
the source material.
exactly.
So like Stick shows up, and I'm like, okay, I know who Stick is. If you could you imagine if this wasn't a comic book movie and then there was just a blind martial arts trainer that showed up and you didn't have any source for that? It's just more fucking ridiculousness. At least
Yeah.
now you're like, oh, okay. If you no source material and you just drop Jennifer Garner in a movie about the hand that just poofs into smoke,
Yeah. Yeah,
like
like
I
what the fuck?
needed that background to be able to
It
at least give
helps.
this any kind of time of day.
It helps. And but anyway, so and what comic book movie or not, the Christmas dinner is still preposterous.
It's not
Uh
a Christmas movie, that's for sure.
it's fucking not. I just that made me so mad, like unrash, like unreasonably angry. But when I said that this was the worst movie I've ever seen, I just literally mean my brain didn't have I had zero brain activity while watching this movie, and I think that that's probably the worst insult I can give to a movie. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you didn't watch it because we did, and you don't need to. You don't ever need to see this movie again. I am surprised this movie is streaming and Daredevil's not. I guess people do like it. Its letterbox score isn't far off from mine. 1.6 overall score with somebody that I do follow on Letterbox gave it a 3.
Did they have a review?
They did. She works for comicbook.com. I think anything with female empowerment or like female itself gets a
Lead
little
type thing?
is that
Like just a female lead type thing?
yeah, but then the other person on the podcast who is also of the same mindset gave it 1.5. Yeah, me and Bob are a half star with
And the
the
whole thing with like Perlmutter's,
it sucks.
it's like it's brutal. Like it's because it's.
It
I mean, we
sucks.
had a conversation the other day, just in passing, like not even in regard to this. Like even the Marvels catches shit
Yeah.
just for being, and it's fucking 2024. And like,
Yeah.
I don't fucking care either way, if I'm being 100% honest. But like, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
The idea that somebody
Exactly.
goes into a movie and is just like, oh, I don't want to watch some girl.
Yeah. And
It's
that's
like, shut up.
the people that actually think that. I think the reason Marvels didn't really do well was for other reasons, but
I
it's the
think
people.
I think it didn't do well initially because it didn't have the pull because people didn't want to see females.
And I also think the Disney Plus effect, people didn't know those characters, which is kind of dumb because people will go see an origin movie. So it could have been anyway. It sucks that this movie it was also along with Halle Berry's Catwoman that kind of set female comic book movies
Yeah.
back a lot.
I
But
haven't touched that. That might be that might it's not Fox, but that could be the shoe.
I want to see what that letterbox score is overall. Catwoman 2004, 1.5 stars average. So it
What,
is worse. It's worse than
what
Elektra,
was Elektra?
1.6.
I said Fox.
We're adding this. This is somehow retroactively in the
Yeah.
in the Fox rewatch now.
Fuck, man. I gotta buy a nice pair of shoes.
But Bob, I am so sorry that you had to watch this. Where do you rank this?
It's worse. And if anything worse than this,
Yeah,
shoe.
I ranked this last. There's
I
nothing
put it
that's
in
gonna.
the I put it in the shoe spot.
Yeah,
Let's put that.
yeah. Let's see if anything can beat the shoe spot.
Yeah.
But it's better. It's Fan Four Stick is better than this. This is probably going to be the worst movie we watch. This will probably be the worst movie I watched the year, maybe the century in my lifetime. This is terrible.
I'm actually like now I'm looking forward to
To like
finding something that like yeah, hey,
that's going to be your scale forever.
I found something that just shits on Elektra.
Is it better or worse than Elektra? That's the scale. But anything to plug before we go, Bob?
I'm really enjoying Shogun. So that's the big one right now. Masters of the Air just ended. That was good. A lot of just TV shit. And then X-Men 97. I watched
Yeah,
the first episode. I'm gonna watch the second episode right after we finish this actually.
yeah,
I liked it.
yeah, yeah. I liked the first episode as well.
And so for that reason, I'll also plug an upcoming or previous podcast, depending on the timing of all this, where we rank and battle out in our always late March
Oh yeah,
Madness bracket.
yeah. I have no idea when that's coming out. We got to get the senator. We got to get the senator away from the Senate.
March 2025. That's when it's coming out.
Yeah, you're probably. I don't really have anything to plug. Thank you for listening. Check out our other episodes. Check out Gateway Gamers. Check out Silo on Apple TV. That's what I'm watching now. X-Men's good. Just keep watching along with us. Follow us on all the social medias. Just follow me on Letterbox. Follow Bob on Letterbox. And yeah, keep it classy. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that I had to watch this movie. You guys had to listen to it.
I think I support the hand after watching Elektra.
I'm Team Hand. I'm absolutely
Yeah.
Team Hand.
I'd
All
like
right.
for the world to end after
Yeah.
watching Elektra.
It also just what Daredevil was and how she was in Daredevil just makes this movie even more abysmal because it's
Also, and going back rewatching it, I know we just wrapped this up. How good Elektra is in the Netflix series
yeah, so
doesn't
good.
help any.
No, and like I love Electric can kind of get annoying in the comics, but I really
I like her
do.
in the comic.
I really enjoy her and Matt's relationship, and she was just it's. I feel bad for Jennifer Garner because she was kind of just plot point in Daredevil, and then to just give her own movie for really no reason, and it's the biggest piece of
It's,
shit I've ever seen. Is just like a travesty. So I hope she gets that shot. I hope just closure for everybody.
I now like I'd like to see because I'd like to see her fucking trash it, kind of like the like how Ryan Reynolds trashes the Green Lantern type
Oh
thing.
yeah. I'm sure that there will be there will be a joke. Absolutely. But yeah, just stay listening, stay subscribed. Thank you guys for listening and follow along with us during this journey. And we'll see you for next episode for X-Men Origins Wolverine. Bye-bye. Goodbye.
Bye.